The Forgotten Realms is a wild place where the slightest bit of magic can cause cataclysmic results, which makes it all the more worrisome that our mistake-prone magical monarch Alakazam is the only one to come to the great city of Baldur's Gate in its hour of need. Either way, this city needs a savior, as old backstabbing enemies return, old eye-stabbing friends need saving, and everyone seems to know exactly what our hero should be doing, except for our hero themselves. Can they save the world and maybe put on some clothes while they're at it? Well, we got one way to find out. On to the video. We find our hero now just a day's travel out from Baldur's Gate, enjoying some much needed rest when all of a sudden we sense a magical surge as our dream visitor cries out, and Githyanki goons come to remind Alec that there's no such thing as a good night's sleep in the Sword Coast. Thankfully, we can Misty Step and dash our way right into the portal that they left open and hope that Aelin can sort out the folks we left behind. When we arrive on the other side, those gangly Gith are about to break down our dream visitor's defensive barrier and no one hurts our bestie. Alec takes a moment to cast their defensive spells, then gets the jump on a couple of straggling Gith who've just finished killing a group of oddly friendly intellect devourers. With the surprise round, we blast them once more, only for them to just kinda run up to the edge of their rock without doing anything. Turns out our wild magic must have trapped them in place, as they're pretty okay just standing there while Alex slowly blasts them to icy fragments. Also, there's a chest right behind where we teleported in. Who put this here? Anyways, loot aside, our dream visitor needs aid, so off we go, only to find a mind flayer in their place and an imprisoned Gith right next to them. Since this mind flayer, called the Emperor, also calls themselves our dream visitor, they must be our friend. To make us more certain, it turns out these evil Gith are trying to undo the source of our protection, so how can we not jump into action? They immediately go for some of our intellect-eating pals, who for some reason show no interest in Alec. Speaking of Alec, we spend our turn quickening out a couple rays of frost to almost kill one of the baddies. The Brain Kitty slaughter continues. We use a shield spell to avoid his Scorching Ray barrage. The Emperor manages to stun two of our opponents, and a different one moves right next to us. Next round has us simply blasting a stunned goon, eating a fireball to the face, watching as the Emperor uses domination against a monk who has stillness of mind, and narrowly avoiding a couple punches. But now that the putrid pugilist is close enough to us, we can toss him into the nearby pit thanks to a strength elixir we took beforehand, and we top up our HP. It's at this point things get dire when we get hold-personed by one of them, and another starts wailing on us with blow after blow. Alec's bestest, most powerful friend uses a clutch chain lightning though, breaking the caster's concentration and freeing us lickety-split, letting us cast a distant magic missile to snipe the cruel caster in order to make sure that doesn't happen again. We also drink a speed pot and heal up with a health pot, so we're prepared for what's to come. Regardless, our foes miss us, so we've got nothing to worry about as we toss one to their death and the Emperor brings home the victory. Now that we know our friend's true form, he takes the opportunity to tell us a bedtime story all about his previous life. And with that, Alex sleeps soundly knowing that they have such a good soul looking after them. The next morning, we get heading into town when a ragamuffin tells us she can't find her mom. If it's anything like what our champion went through as a kid, their mom is probably just a sheep for an afternoon, so we give him some food and go on our way. While we're getting the lay of the land, we also swing by Ferg Draugr, who sells us the Hellrider Longbow. This little trinket ain't too fancy, and we can't even properly use it, but it gives us a +3 to our initiative so long as it's on our person, so on our person it shall stay. From here, we swing by the main thoroughfare and find a circus of old things. It does take a bit of convincing to get past the guards, but you know we just gotta get inside. Especially since we meet a nice mud mephit who offers to make a statue of us. All it will cost is 5,000 gold, but with them complimenting us like this, how could we refuse? While we're waiting for it to arrive, we try and get inside the city past all the guards. Unfortunately, it seems even the robots in the city are cultists, so the Big Apple will have to wait as a deep gnome flash bombs them and leads us to Wulbren Bongle, who we rescued back at Moonrise. He lets us know that Gortash has the city in an iron grip with his steel watch, and only we can stop him by blowing up the foundry where they're being made. Now, it does sound like the Gondians working there are enslaved, so we tell him we'll blow it up after the area is clear. But Wulbren is clearly a good guy since he's also trying to mess up Gortash, so how could we not trust him? After that, it seems like the guards don't want to throw hands anymore and they let us pass easy peasy. That's not the end of old faces popping up though. Just down the street in an inn, we bump into Carilla, who tells
tells us Raphael is here in order to help us save the world. Indeed, he's just upstairs and lets us know that in order to defeat the Elder Brain, we'll need the help of Prince Orpheus, the Gith imprisoned by the Emperor, who, as it turns out, has been tricking us this whole time into leading us to its own mysterious goals. We should have known we can't trust someone that good. Either way, thank God Raphael is here to give us the hammer we need to free Prince Orpheus. All we need to do is sign away our soul and promise to give him the Brain's crown once we beat it. Continuing on, we talk our way into Gortash's keep, which is blocking the road, find ourselves unprepared and somehow directly behind him in his coronation, then head at last into the big city proper. The first thing we do, of course, is head to Sorcerer's Sundries, because we're a sorcerer and we'd love some sundries. Mainly, we want to talk to this here unperson and buy Birthright, a hat that gives us +2 to our charisma, setting it to 22. Then we get told that if we know about the Night Song, we'll be super rich, and she's staying at our camp, so we definitely know about her. All we gotta do is head through the right portal, and we have the distinct displeasure of meeting Leroican, who almost instantly tells us that he wants to eternally bind our divine friend to his service. Naturally, this makes it a lot easier on our conscience as we break into his vault and take him for all he's worth, including an Artistry of War scroll, which you should keep in mind for later, and most notably Marco Heshkir, which will replace our Spell Sparkler. This bad boy does so much. To start, it increases our spell attacks and DC by 1 and lets us cast any spell for free once per long rest. But that's not all, it also lets us choose an element, in our case usually cold, letting us cast 2 spells for free per short rest, Cone of Cold and Ice Storm, while also giving resistance to cold, increased cold damage equal to our proficiency bonus, and 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost every time we deal spell damage. Then we head to the Stormshore Tabernacle and donate enough gold to fund a city-state to the Goddess of Luck, cause Goddess knows we'll need her blessing coming in the form of the Anointed in Splendor permanent buff, granting an additional +2 to all of our saving throws. Then we have a quick chat with a greasy sewer man who's kind enough to give us enough XP to hit level 9. The main thing we get at this level is 5th level spell slots, for which we'll take Cone of Cold to add to our icy goodness. We also replace blindness with counterspell now that we have more spell slots to spare, and will likely be coming across more casters in the big city. Now that we're all powered up, we decide to take a breather and head to the beach, only to get brutally called a cuck and then assaulted by a couple gangs of some local hooligans. As the fight kicks off, we immediately use our free Cone of Cold on a group of baddies, then quickened out our actual Cone of Cold, decimating these goons. For the most part, the others seem busy simply oiling each other up, and now we're not so sure this is a fight, but one does try to magic missile us to no avail, and another blows up a few weakened bozos with a bomb. Back to Alec, and we've got an Ice Storm to further mess up the whole battlefield, along with a Wild Surge Spike Growth and a simple bonk with our bonus action to injure a barbarian even further. The opposing hooligans are even nice enough to finish her off for us, and they in turn get a wee bit finished off. Another Ice Storm takes out the stragglers of one of the gangs, and now it's just a few folks left on one side who all do their best but make it pretty clear we are well beyond what they're capable of. Just because we can, we use our free spell from our staff to do another Cone of Cold on one poor dude, and from here it's one more Ice Storm and a few Rays of Frost in order to clean up the whole shebang lickety-split. And we barely lost any health at all, really putting our power into perspective. After our expedition to the beach, we call it a night, and look who should show up at our camp but our old friend Yurgir, come to tell us that we made a bad deal with Raphael, and he too was trying to abuse our trusting nature just like the Emperor. He's even nice enough to tell us that we can destroy our contract by getting into Raphael's house, and we can do that by meeting with someone named Hellsick. For now, that's a future problem, but man, is it nice to have such a trustworthy friend looking out for us. The next day, we continue our lovely visit to the city and stumble across a woman whose daughter has gone missing. So off we go to the last place she was seen, only to stumble across a real-life pirate who, as it turns out, is actually our old nemesis Ethel, and the child is, gestating. Unfortunately, we can't get her to cough the kid out just yet, but when she vanishes, she leaves us with some red-cap goons, and these guys we most certainly can beat up. Using the same strategy we did in our last fight, this one is a breeze as well. Mainly, we just soften them up using Frost Rays. When they're all clumped up, we brutalize them with our AoE spells, and then finish them all off with one big cast. Well, except for one of them that we get a moment later. Conveniently enough, as we step outside, we see a flyer for an anti-hag group group, and just along the street we managed to track them down. Turns out they're actually led by Mayrina, the girl we rescued in Act 1. Unfortunately, much like Alec occasionally is, she is now a sheep. Fortunately, we can fix that by shooting this creepy doll in the same room as her. To complete the unfortunate sandwich though, it turns out one of the members of this here group was actually a redcap minion of Ethel's in disguise. Since we've got a handy dandy hold monster scroll though, this is a pretty easy matter to solve with just a few point blank rays of frost. Afterwards, Mayrina tells us her little strike force have just the thing we need to save the kid in the form of Hagsbane. Armed with all we need, we head back to Ethel's hideout only to bump into some bodyguards of hers. They are more or less just 4 regular guys, and we've all seen how regular folks fare against our mystical menace. Before you know it, they're laid out on the floor and it's time to face our old backstabbing enemy once more. Well, it would be, but we're pretty spent, so we head back to camp and find Yenna, the kid we met earlier, who gives us some mystery street meat that she reveals to be a cute little kitty. Good lord, what are they teaching the kid? Oh, it's Orin in disguise. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Apparently, she's come to say she's kidnapped the kid and will only give her back to us if we kill Gortash first and then duel her to the death. We really need to start camping in harder to find places. Any hoodles, back to Ethel and we down an invis potion, sneak up on her just like last time and get her with a surprise bit of Hagsbane courtesy of Mayrina. It works wonders immediately and out comes the missing kid. Now we're free to fight to our heart's content like a real hero. To make it even easier on us, there's some fun mysterious spores to huff here that make us hasted, letting us shoot a darkness arrow to hide in so she can't target us. She makes more clones of herself too, but they can't do anything while we're in our cloud. Likewise though, we can't do anything to her so long as these mushrooms are around, which means the first few turns are spent taking them out and refreshing our darkness arrows. Once we take out the last of them, she's more vulnerable than ever before, and we can blast away to our heart's content since we can avoid all she does by hiding in our arrows. Just like that, Alex saves the day once more, and the kid happily goes off to be with their mom. From Ethel's corpse, we grab the Ring of Feywild Sparks, a ring that increases our spell save DC by 1, even though it doesn't say so, and makes wild surges guaranteed after using Tides of Chaos, meaning they should happen much more often. All of this stuff with Ethel though brings back some bad memories for our poor hero, and it gets them all kinda glum. So we find ourselves at the House of Grief, who offers a single therapy session for the low price of 3 years worth of wages for the average man. That seems about right. It's a little impersonal as far as therapy goes for sure, but they seem to really care about Alakazam, so we're more than happy to spill our woes. At one point we do realize she's trying to read our mind, and wow, you just don't find therapists that put in that extra mile these days. They really do care. Our poor hero ends up getting diagnosed with a craven heart, and we meet Viconia DeVere properly, who invites us into her basement to discuss matters further. And it turns out they're a bunch of Sharans who we don't have a great track record with. Alec tries to convince them to join us against the Absolute, but they're not having any of it. Goodness gracious, even our therapist is trying to betray us now. Well, nothing to do for it but use a freezing sphere scroll to blast her, and then take some Terrazul that we bought earlier, which is basically a 2-turn speed potion that doesn't take a bonus action to use, in order to cast another freezing sphere scroll, triggering a Bloodlust elixir, letting us use, you guessed it, another freezing sphere. And wouldn't you know it, we've still got a quicken spell for a 4th freezing sphere, leaving Viconia at 2 HP and a bunch of her goons already dead. She even slips immediately on her turn, leaving her Sharan Psychos to spend theirs dashing on over to us. When it's back to Alec, they blast him with a couple cones of cold one after the other, triggering Bloodlust again for an ice storm to freeze most of them. They also waddle back and quicken out a blur, mainly so we're not in danger as we wait out the Terrazul jitters. From here, our rampage continues with cruel cones of cold, wild walls of ice, and ill-intentioned ice storms which vanquish Viconia and leave the Sharans in shambles. As there's just a few stragglers left, you can imagine how poorly this goes for them, and to think we could have been friends. The last guy even does the deed for us, giving us level 10. At this point, we get a new cantrip in the form of Shocking Grasp to help us out in melee, and Hold Monster for when we're facing some big threats that we'd rather not deal with. We also learn the heightened spell meta magic, which can give enemies disadvantage on our saving throws, great with spells like Hold Monster. Alec's next reward is found in the next room, the Mirror of Loss. All we need to do with this is make a few checks, then give up some of our muscles temporarily in order to gain a +2 to our charisma
permanently, setting us up to a whopping 24. Now there really is no one that Alec can't charm, except for the Ballis cultists that are about to lynch our very good pal Volothamp, who gave us our cool invisibility seeing eye way back when. Thankfully, when our spell-slinging sorcerer Silver Tongue isn't enough to get the job done, their magic sure is. Our old pal has some intel on the enemies and decides to crash at our camp before he tells us about it. Most notably, he gives us a book that grants Slayer knowledge, granting advantage on saving throws against Orin for when we inevitably fight her. It's about time we go take down Gortash's steel watch, but before we do, you just know we gotta look as cool as the ice we conjure. Thanks to the local dye shop, we sure do. Continuing on, we infiltrate the foundry with an invis potion, only to find the Gondians enslaved in truly horrific conditions. They've even got bombs strapped to their necks. Naturally, this can't stand. We need to free these poor souls immediately before any more harm can befall them. As the fight kicks off, we fly up to the high ground and quick and spell a blur on ourselves. A good thing too, because even the Gondians are fighting against us for some reason. One of the baddies does summon a Deva, but even that misses us. Next round, we blast one of the Bay Knight baddies with a Frost Ray and explode a barrel, accidentally hitting some Gondians too, and triggering a dead man's switch on their explosive collars. That can wait a moment. For now, a Bloodlust elixir lets us get an 82 damage Ray of Frost, finishing off another slaver. The Gondians actually realize they should be on our side at this point, and one even uses a lightning bolt on a motivator, disarming it themselves. You're telling me you could just do that this whole time? Oh well, after one more Frost Ray, the lonesome guard gets finished off by one of the very people he sought to keep down, inspired no doubt by Alec's heroic actions. They even apologize for attacking us at first, but well, it turns out their families were being held hostage too, and probably aren't in the best of shapes now. Well, no use worrying over what we can't change. For now, we just head into the basement and work on freeing these folks, starting with a hold monster on a Hellfire Watcher. Then we simply blast it from afar, well, no one else notices until it blows itself up, and still somehow, even the guy caught in the explosion doesn't care. So we go in with a Blur active and an Ice Storm to kick things off. Another Watcher saunters into sight, so we grab that one with a hold monster as well. Since it's stuck waiting there, unable to break out, we hit the weaker folks with the old double Ice Storm to decimate most of them. After they're out of the way, it's another Frost Ray barrage for the Watcher until he too decides to do us both a favor and end this quicker. Even when it's just us and one Gondian, we can't convince them to enjoy their freedom as they're more dead set on avenging their slavers. Some people just can't be helped. There is still a bunch of other people to clean up in this room, but they're pretty easy to take out without these Steel Watchers to worry about, so long as we're not a sheep, of course. Once we get the last of them cleaned up, we head into the next room where there's 3 whole Hellfire Watchers and 1 whole Hellfire Steel Watcher Titan who sounds like he means business from the name alone. Starting off with a surprise round and downing Terrazul in a speed potion makes Alec turn into a buzzing Frost Ray machine though, and we're able to get one blowing up pretty quickly. Even finding time to throw a Flash Blinder bought from Wulbrin's folks to make the Titan malfunction for a turn. The Watchers themselves just spend their turns dashing over to us, leaving them ripe for a twin spell hold monster, giving a rather silly magic surge in the process. With speed and drugs and now this, we've really got a party. God only knows what the poor paralyzed Watchers could even do in this situation, as over the next few rounds Alec becomes a teleporting blitzed out frosty nightmare, going through Terrazul and speed potion withdrawals mid-combat right as the last Watcher blows up. We do try and hold monster the Titan as well a couple times, managing to get it on the second attempt. From here, the poor soul never stood a single chance. What could one hope to do against such a fearsome frosty foe who definitely has control over their magic? For our efforts, we get Gontr Mael, a longbow which most notably for us gives Celestial Haste, basically just haste that lasts for 5 turns instead of 10 but doesn't leave you lethargic. We'll be using this one interchangeably with our Hellrider Longbow. Now we do what our good pal Wulbrin Bongo suggested and plant the bomb he gave us, followed by running like our life depends on it, getting out just in time to watch the fireworks. Turns out endangering the Gondians was actually not the best move. Shame on you, Wulbrin Bongo. How could you do such a thing? Good thing we've always trusted the rightful responsible leader, Barkus Root, instead. Unfortunately, the leader of the Gondians tries to kill us the moment the cutscene ends, probably because we blew up some of his people. Good thing we're way faster than him with his stubby little legs. A moment later, we get level 11, which gives us the slightly silly Controlled Chaos feature, giving us the ability to spend a reaction to make an enemy trigger a wild magic surge when they cast a spell. Finally, we can weaponize our magical mayhem, inflicting her class feature signature that we've been dealing with since level 1 on our enemies. We also get a 6th level spell slot and spell to go with it in the form of Globe of Invulnerability, giving us an extremely powerful defensive option for a few turns at the cost of concentration. At last, it's time for us to raid Worm's Rock Fortress and take down old Gordy himself. Our brand new controlled chaos causes spikes to shoot out of the enemies, while the ones that do reach us fail to do anything thanks to our Globe of Invulnerability. Having the globe up also means we're free to cause wild surges without fear of them harming us. And when we cast a spell, we get the same surge, creating even more vines. Somebody else accidentally conjures a Cambion straight from the hells too. Alec keeps spewing out AoE spells over the group while they alone are invincible, and someone else surges out a fog cloud to make things worse for everyone. Generally, there's nothing controlled about this chaos, but it is over rather quickly at the very least, with the Cambion actually going down last. Continuing up to the old Courtmeister, we precast Celestial Haste and get a surprise round on his cronies with a Frost Ray. First things first, we break a machine that's giving him resistance to all damage, then we quickened out a Freezing Sphere scroll, killing one goon and knocking Gortash prone. Unfortunately, one of his lackeys did not get surprised, so we do use a counterspell to ensure that we don't get frightened. The big man just spends his turn blasting us with another Dazzling Ray. Because one of his machines malfunctions, on our next turn he has vulnerability to cold damage, letting us twin spell out our Frost Rays, reducing him just low enough to trigger his much scarier second phase. Before we pass him back, we also down a Bloodlust Elixir in preparation of what's to come. The little guys are no threat to us at least, and the big guy that just got bigger summons a big hand that will hit where we're standing if we don't move. An Ice Storm hitting him and two of his recently summoned manifestations of tyranny triggers both our Bloodlust Elixir and his legendary action, creating another hand that will follow us and hit us. A second Ice Storm goes after his less ethereal cronies, and our third action is used with a Remove Curse scroll to get rid of hand number 2. Finally, we Misty Step to the other side of the ice in the hopes he'll slip. Our plans fall through, however, and instead he summons another hand, to which we controlled Chaos, doing literally nothing except triggering his legendary action, making yet another hand. Back to Alec, and it's a Freezing Sphere Ice Storm combo in order to bring down the last two lackluster lackeys. From here, it's nothing but the wrath of Frosty Rays for Gortster, who is intent on just making as many hovering hands as humanly possible, all of which get nullified by a single cast of Globe of Invulnerability. Geez, what a handy spell to have around. Since we're just straight up immortal in our globe, there's really no danger at all at this point, and we're free to take our time blasting him down. Finally adding a second super shiny rock to our ever-growing collection. Oh yeah, and one step closer to rescuing Yenna too. We also steal his J's, since these handy-dandy Helldusk Boots make it so we can't be moved, ignore difficult terrain, and let us succeed one saving throw for free per long rest. And they give us a more explosive fiery version of Misty Step to boot. Back at camp, we get left a note from Orin on what to do next. We need to go to some place called the Murder Tribunal and succeed in the trial in order to save the child. Following the instructions, we find ourselves in front of Sarevok Onchev, the once believed to be deceased Ballast Bane of Baldur's Gate, who actually really likes us. He seems like a really chill guy and even calls us worthy. All we need to do to earn Sarevok's approval is kill this funny looking elephant and take a quick bath in a bit of blood. He even gives us a cute little necklace along with telling us where Orin is. What a nice guy. Definitely glad to call him our friend. Next thing you know, we're meeting Orin at Baal's temple, precasting Blur and downing a speed potion. She's going all Super Slayer on us and the fight kicks off. Thanks to a Vigilance Elixir, we go first, drinking a Bloodlust Elixir and blasting with Magic Missile to remove a Death Head's Unstoppable stacks, followed by a Freezing Sphere scroll to soften them all up. Terrazul gives us a third action for which we Ice Storm, freezing one to death, giving a fourth action for yet one more Freezing Sphere to mess up the folks casting the ritual. Orin herself simply slips on her turn, but the ritual goes strong, refreshing her 12 unstoppable stacks and giving us Baal's Edict, meaning we have to kill someone this turn or we instantly die. With a Cone of Cold, an Ice Storm, and two more Cones of Cold, mostly using scrolls to save our spell slots just in case, we're able to kill a couple and stop the ritual for good. Since our next turn is gonna get skipped due to Terrazul and speed, we also quicken out an Invulnerability Globe, leaving Orin to helplessly slam into us for a little while before bunny hopping up here to scream at a corpse until they wake up again. One of the remaining goons even tries to steal our Ray of Frost, so we turn him into a sheep with a Wild Surge to give
give him the full experience. Then we blast him to bits for having the audacity to steal our trademark shtick, shortly before blasting an invisible one too, and with a speed potion make Orin go blind to really ruin her day for just one turn. Next round, a cone of cold takes out the very last boorish ballist, and Alec fires off the Artistry of War scroll we picked up from Leroican, taking out half of her unstoppable stacks and knocking her prone. Magic Missile upcasted is more than enough to take out the other half too, and just in case she was getting any funny ideas, we use a globe scroll to make us properly invincible. A couple more turns with the good old tried and true ice thrower is all we need to finish off the final chosen of the dead three, grabbing our last shiny rock for our collection, which we totally remembered was to stop the Elder Brain. Yeah, right, who could forget? And we have the pleasure of being a hero to yet another kid. Then we're off to our penultimate task. We meet with the Diabolist our best buddy Yurgir told us about, and she gives us all we need to pop open a portal straight into that backstabber Raphael's House of Hope. The moment we get in, we're greeted by Hope herself, who's in desperate need of a friend, which Alec can relate to. In return for promising to set her free from Raphael's imprisonment, she becomes our new bestie, giving us a disguise and entry into the house. Then we're in the archive meeting the rather fittingly named Archivist, who only requires a bit of convincing to make them think we're an important devil looking for Alakazam's contract. Unfortunately, he doesn't just give it to us, but he does give us access to the boudoir, wherein we find, Raphael looking rather scantily clad. Or actually, this is Harlep, who says that he'll give us everything we desire if we play a game with him, and Alec is so good at games. It's a little weird that we gotta do it naked, but oh, it's this kind of game. Well, Alec is good at these sorts too. After putting their silver tongue to use and convincing our fiendish opponent, Harlep is true to their word and gives us the key to Raphael's safe, which just so happens to contain the password we need to grab our contract. As we tear the contract in two, our disguise gets broken and Raphael is on his way home, meaning it's time we go no holds barred and get blasting through the entirety of the house. Whether it be flaming hellbores, nightmarish hellspheres, or vengeful imps, we'll be freezing our way through them when we're not giving them action surges. Once the last of the house is entirely cleared out and we've got the benefits of a long rest from hitting this tap in the boudoir, we sneak down to Hope's prison where we get a surprise round on her jailers. With the surprise round helping us and a bunch of AoE spells, we're able to bombard a couple of the imps down to nothing before Misty stepping around the corner. The spectators are the only really scary ones because they can paralyze us, and while they try, thanks to Tides of Chaos, they fail. Unfortunately, Tides of Chaos also results in Alex slowing themselves, but it's not enough to stop a couple cones of cold from killing the first spectator and the turn after the next one too. At this point, the lone three imps are just awaiting their icy execution. With the Orphic Hammer Raphael gave us himself, Hope is freed, and we're ready to get out of Dodge. Also, we try and put a petrified debtor out of their misery, and this happens for some reason. Must have been a magic surge, I guess. Since we're gonna need a bit more health to take on Raffi, we throw on the Amulet of Greater Health and have Hope down a Vigilance Elixir so she goes first, while also summoning a Water Elemental and Ice Methods using scrolls and downing a Bloodlust Elixir ourselves. All our prep gets finished just in time as Raphael finally shows his face, alongside Hope's sister Carilla and our old mate Yurgir. And of course, as the fight kicks off, he joins the winning side. What a good guy. Alex up first, and we use a speed potion and freezing sphere, nuking Hope's sister and damaging one of the pillars, buffing Raphael, while also summoning another hostile Gambian. Then we invulnerability globe and keep frost raying away at the pillars to take them out ASAP. Yurgir gets to work on our foes too, making them nice and squishy for us to deal with, before a baddie casts Scorching Ray and turns half the battlefield into cats and dogs with a wild surge. Hope uses a speed potion in order to permanently banish the two healthiest Gambians. Raphael does a whole lot of nothing, and our water elemental blows up a pillar. Unfortunately, when it gets to us, we are a dog, so this is really more Hope's show now, as she uses divine intervention to blast everyone from the safety of our globe. The elemental slaughters pillar number 2, and thankfully we're safe and sound because of the same globe until we're no longer polymorphed, so our methods fly in and get to work. We follow up by ice storming them to bits to trigger our bloodlust in order to finish off pillar 3 and get to work on the last one. Yurgir meanwhile manages to knock Hope out of our globe and somehow himself with his own concussive blast. But on Hope's turn, something interesting happens. We move her back in the globe globe and realize she has divine intervention available again, presumably because Raphael stunned her with Punish Divinity last time she used it. Regardless, the fight goes on. Our elemental takes out the last pillar, we refresh our globe and blast away with all of our cold spells, at this point not even in danger without our invulnerability. Because we do have our invulnerability, however, it makes it super easy to clean up the champions, beat up Raphael some more, and when our concentration runs out, cast Protection from Evil and Good for some defense. Not that we need it, since he spends his turns either slipping or getting counterspelled. Honestly, with the whole gang beating up on him, this feels far more like bullying than a fight against an archdevil who had plans to take over the world, and before you know it, he too is dealt with, giving us a much-earned level 12, for which we learn Disintegrate, because why not, and Elemental Adept Cold, which lets us ignore cold resistance and makes it so we can't roll ones on cold damage, because we deserve it. Finally, we're off to the sewers to face the Netherbrain itself, who's a lot scarier looking than I remember. Before we can do anything, they pull Alec into their psyche, and after we can do anything, we're not in any better spot whatsoever. Luckily, the Emperor whisks us away to safety just in time, but the city desperately needs our help. And hey, while we're here, we finally get the chance to betray the betrayer and free Orpheus, which the Emperor doesn't much care for. Weirdly enough, Orpheus doesn't seem the biggest fan of it either. Regardless, he's a true friend, as after catching him up on what's going on, he makes the ultimate sacrifice and becomes a mind flayer in order to properly use our shiny rock collection that we have to give up to save the world. So, I mean, who's making the real sacrifice? As we head out, things are looking dire indeed, so we get giving a wonderful speech to rally the allies who came to join us, followed by accidentally ruining our friendships with all of them by casting mage armor, to the point where they literally kill Orpheus. I guess saving the world isn't as important as I thought. Thankfully, we can revive him into tip-top shape enough to fight our way through the nearby battalion in the way of the brain, and climb up to where our final showdown awaits. Just like this, it's do or die, time to prove that our magic can be used for good. Orpheus uses a Dimension Door scroll to teleport us next to the crown. Alec uses a Misty Step to bait out a bunch of counter spells so they can use Globe of Invulnerability afterwards. And the O-Man himself gets channeling the Netherstones. The icky enemy Illithids do their best to stop us to absolutely no avail, causing us to successfully reopen a portal into the brain's psyche. Once inside, our tentacled champion uses Fierce Perilous Stakes on Alec 6 times over the course of a few turns, each granting 15 additional psychic damage on everything we do. Meaning one level 2 cast of magic missiles is all it takes to blast the brain to bits once and for all, and not a single surge got in our way. Unless, of course, you count the surge of magic caused by the Netherbrain blowing itself up. Not all endings are happy though, as Orpheus asks us to free him from this mortal coil. However, Alex Silvertongue makes one last appearance to ensure that while not all endings are happy, this one at least will be. Looks like this friend is here to stay. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. This run was a very silly time, and especially once we got Controlled Chaos, a very fun time. I would definitely recommend giving a high-level Wild Magic Sorcerer a try yourself. That being said, as always, a special thanks to our Storyteller tier members, Ocan, Mark Rainbow, Rat King, Lumina, Beltfed Joe, Chance Hine, El Guardia, Ramon Standalone, Witch Amy, and Jessie Kate.